Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing very well. September the 18th, 2011. Hey, look at that. Got the year right. Just after 2 p.m. And interesting stuff been floating around the media recently. Rick Perry, no relation to Katie, I believe, has been talking about how he views Social Security as a Ponzi scheme. And I wish to take extreme objection to the characterization of Social Security as a Ponzi scheme. That is irresponsible in the extreme. It is absolutely inaccurate. It is, in fact, an insult to Ponzi schemes, because Social Security is far worse than a Ponzi scheme. It is way too generous to compare it to a Ponzi scheme. Now, a Ponzi scheme is you set up some investment, quote, investment deal or whatever, and you get people to kick in money, and then you pay people who are already in from people you get coming in who are new, right? So you get 10 people to put in $5,000, and then you get 20 people to put in $5,000, and you pay the first $5,000ers with money from the second group, and it grows and grows, and then it explodes. This almost destroyed Albania's economy, I think, in the 90s. So a Ponzi scheme is that, and they're, of course, illegal, because they are entirely too benevolent relative to government programs. Social Security, of course, has some aspects of a Ponzi scheme in that it is a wealth transfer from the young to the old, which is one of the most regressive taxes you can imagine. The baby boomers are the richest generation that has ever existed on the planet, at least in the West. They have had, 40 or 50 years to gather their wealth together and have done a good deal of doing that. And now that they're coming close to retirement, as of 2010, Social Security is in the red. It is already paying out more than it has, or is drawing in revenues. And this is before the bulge of the boomers retire. So obviously the system is doomed, and nobody wants to talk about that. They're all, 2037, and it's all complete nonsense. And everybody has this, this idea, this fantasy or whatever, that the money that was taken from you by force was, at two levels. You have a tax on Social Security on your paycheck, and the employer pays half as well, so that's simply another deduction, the hidden deduction from your paycheck. And the money is blown. It's gone. It's been used to, as Harry Brown used to say, prop up the Russian ruble 20 years ago for 3 hours. It's just gone. It's evaporated. It's snaked its way into the oily, deep pockets of the politically connected, and the money is just gone. Toast. It's vanished. And so there's nothing there for people to retire on. And so the only way that you can pay people's retirement is to take a gun to the temple of the young and get them to cough up their damn meager resources at the beginning of their careers to line the pockets of those who've had an entire lifetime to generate wealth and to save, even outside of Social Security. The, quote, assets that the Social Security system have are government IOUs. They're bonds, which the government has to pay through increasing taxes or borrowing. So why is Social Security not like a Ponzi scheme? Well, a Ponzi scheme is voluntary. A Ponzi scheme is not something, you're drawn in by greed or by corruption or by ignorance, but you're not forced to be there. Nobody who was ripped off by Bernie Madoff was held up at gunpoint. So first of all, Ponzi schemes are voluntary, and Social Security is entirely coercive and violent and destructive as a result. So the first thing is it's an insult to Ponzi schemes to say that it's like Social Security, because a Ponzi scheme is voluntary. The other thing that's true about a Ponzi scheme is in a Ponzi scheme, a private Ponzi scheme, you cannot sell off your children. You cannot sell off the unborn of strangers. You get hosed, and your financial indebtedness begins and ends with you. You can't go and sell off your children for the sake of profit in the present, but that, of course, is not the case with Social Security, which is basically funded on the wholesale auction of the unborn. So this is another way in which Social Security is not like a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi schemes collapse relatively quickly. The Ponzi scheme called Social Security has been running, I guess, a little over 100 years as far as Germany goes, and, of course, about half that time in America, and it's completely toast. A Social Security, much like government pension programs, are predicated on actuarial analyses or statistics that would be completely illegal in the private sector. So the projections for how much is going to be available for the seniors and how much is going to be available for government employees is based upon completely absurd returns, 7, 8, 9% of returns on the money that's invested. This is all complete nonsense. stocks have been flat for years and, in fact, have lost value in many cases. So there's just not going to be any money there. The difference, of course, is the Ponzi scheme implodes and takes the people's savings who were in it voluntarily and who had the chance to get out whenever they wanted for many years. We could only hope to elevate Social Security to the status of a Ponzi scheme. I mean, that would be fantastic. It means you could take your money out. It means you're not there by force. It means that if you're not in the system, you can't be held liable for its shortfalls. You can't sell the unborn. I mean, God, if we could only elevate government crimes to the status of merely private crimes, that would be a staggering leap forward in the reduction of violence within society. If you could get the government to be as ethical, as responsible, as voluntary as Bernie Madoff, that would be a massive step forward in human society. But frankly, given the grey power of the voters and the general ignorance of people on the subject and the hysteria that floats around this topic, don't hold your breath for Bernie Madoff to become the moral ideal that our politicians should strive towards. Instead, they're going to throw him in jail while they get fat pensions and book deals. It's the Freedom Made Radio Sunday Show, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, FDRURL.com/chat if you want to get involved. It's every Sunday. I hope to see you there. Now let's move on with the show.